All right, let's talk about batteries. Today we're going to discuss if all lithium cells must be balance charged. What do you think? Okay, first let's discuss what a lithium battery is. You might be familiar with sort of like something like this. This is for my camera, and it has a lithium battery inside. Lithium, some of the latest chemistry that's hit the markets because they can hold a lot of energy and they can deliver large amounts of that energy really fast. All right, so what is this balance charging? Okay, when manufacturers are designing a product, sometimes they need a higher voltage than a single cell can provide. This one, for example, here has 4 volts, 4.2 volts fully charged. So if they need more than 4 volts, what they'll do is they'll use 2 connected in series, sort of like this. And so this one will provide 4 volts and this one will provide 4 volts. So combined, you will see 8.4 volts. And sometimes that gets the job done depending on the application. Balance charging is the process where the charger actually charges the batteries at a different rate. This is very important because these cells get dangerous if you overcharge them. If one of them charges faster than the other one, then that cell needs to be charged at a slower rate so that they can both charge at the same time. All right, so why does that question keep popping up here on my channel? Well, if you're not familiar with my channel, the reason is that 2 years ago, I decided to make my own electric vehicle. While doing so, I chose to use lithium batteries. While designing the charging system, I decided that I wasn't gonna use a balancing charger. Instead, I was just gonna charge all the batteries without any balancing leads. People keep posting comments ranging all the way from I wouldn't recommend it, I'd be careful if I was you, to I am the devil and I should be burned alive for doing such a crazy thing. All right, so why did I decide not to use a balanced charging system? First, I think to be able to explain that, I think we have to figure out why people think that all cells must be balanced charged. There are many different types of lithium batteries. These right here are what are known as Lipo Batteries, lithium polymer. These are lithium cobalt oxide. And even though they're still lithium batteries, they're slightly different. These are sort of the cells that are found on camera batteries and, on your phone, on your computers, sort of like that. The lipos are usually used in applications that are more demanding. This one here is for my drone. And this one is used in all kinds of stuff, all the way from little cars that are radio controlled to little, DIY drones. The radio control industry is huge. Some estimates go up to $1 billion. And so that makes these cells right here, the lipos, very, very popular. As a result of that, many people have written papers, they have written articles on how to use and how to charge lithium polymer cells. And these cells must be balanced charged to be able to operate safely. And so that is the reason why a lot of people think that all lithium cells must be charged the same way, because one of the most popular in consumer electronics, like these ones here, have to be balanced charged. So let's talk about why they have to be balanced charged. Okay, so as it turns out, no 2 cells can be alike. These things are like snowflakes. They look similar from afar, they look identical, but they're slightly different. There are very, very slight differences between them. The main differences are either in capacity or in the rate at which they can deliver their power, sometimes known as internal resistance. Now, some high-end manufacturers actually match their battery packs. This pack right here has 3 cells in series, and they offer really, really high-end performance model packs where they actually go into a lot of trouble to be able to match the cells as closely as possible. But no matter how hard they tried, they could not get a perfect set of cells that act and behave exactly the same. So there's going to be slightly differences. Now, lipos are very, very incredible batteries. What they lacked in energy density, they gain in its ability to deliver the power. This one here, for example, is 25 Cs, which means it's a 2.2 amp power. At 25 Cs, that means that this little battery here is capable of delivering 55 amps, which is an incredible amount of power coming from such a tiny little battery. And the incredible thing is that these go all the way to up to like 100 Cs. If this one here was 100 Cs, this little battery here would be able to deliver up to 200 amps, which is ludicrous. And so what happens when they're delivering that kind of power? Well, those tiny differences between each cell, they get augmented. Like the higher the power levels go, the more that those differences become apparent and become an issue. That is the reason why these batteries must be balanced charged. Now, there's a way that I can visually show you what I'm talking about. How at the lower levels, the differences are not as apparent as at the higher levels. Let me show you something that I'm building that is gonna help demonstrate this point. All right, what I have here is a DIY LED light that I am working on. It's gonna use lithium cells, lithium batteries. Okay, these cells came out of the same battery pack, which means that most likely they were manufactured around the same time, in the same factory around the same time, and they ended up going into the same laptop battery. So they should be pretty similar to each other, right? To be able to check the cell's parameters, I have this cell log 8. Let's see, hopefully it'll focus. Which shows you the voltage of each individual cells. So you can see there's slight difference. They're within 28 millivolts of each other. The beauty about this light is that it's dimmable, and so I can show you what the batteries will do under different kinds of loads. So let's turn the light on. Light is on. Is not very bright. The cell's voltage didn't really move. But let's start increasing the load on each cell, and then you will start to see something very interesting. Look at that. Now, look at that. Okay, you see that now? Cell number 1, it's 333 millivolts different than cell number 2. And then cell number 2 is different and higher than cell number 3. Now this only becomes evident once you put a huge load on these cells. If we back down the load, then these cells, they pretty much are able to hold their voltage together, which means that at that rate, they're able to deliver their energy at the same rate without sagging. This light is 25 watts, so it's capable of pulling about 2.5 amps off of these cells. If you were to run it at full speed, pretty soon that cell number 1 is going to hit the bottom threshold, which is 3 volts, and then hopefully the BMS that you have on your little device will let you know that you need to stop using the battery. But see, at that point, that cell, which is right there, see, there's the alarm. It's basically telling you that you're done. Now, of course, if we stop using these batteries at this point, then not all of the batteries got discharged the same amount, because obviously cell number 2 was the one that kept the voltage higher, was able to deliver more power than the other 2 cells. So then that cell is actually going to be more discharged than the other 2. And so you already ended up with an imbalanced pack. So that is the reason why lipos that are used at very, very high power levels need to be balanced charged every single time. Now, are all batteries used at these power levels? No, these are exceptional batteries, and these are the leading edge of performance. Most batteries are used at very, very smaller levels of power. These, for example, these take about 2 hours to be fully discharged. So you can see the difference. This one, 2.5 minutes to get completely discharged. This one, 2 hours. The rate of discharge of this guy right here is a lot slower. And so those differences between each of the two cells stored inside of this thing are not going to be as apparent, and they're not going to be as big an issue as they would be on here. So you could get away with charging these cells without balancing them because they didn't get so in balance in each one of the cycle. In fact, if you stay below the threshold of the weakest cell, those cells are going to go up and they're going to come down and they're going to get charged and they're going to get discharged and they're going to get charged and they're going to get discharged cycle after cycle after cycle without drifting from each other. How do I know that? I have been charging my Sama for 2 years without balancing them, and the cells go up and they go down and they charge all the way up and they charge all the way down. And after 2 years, I made a video where I went and checked each individual cells, and they were almost perfectly, all perfectly balanced together. And so that is the reason why not all lithium cells have to be balanced charge. It really varies on your application. If you're asking way too much power off your cells, then yeah, there's gonna be a higher likelihood of you needing to charge to balance the cells in each cycle. But if you are below the threshold of the weakest cell, right? Whatever the weakest cell, whatever that rate of energy consumption that cell can deliver, then you don't need to balance charge. Cells will just go up and down. I hope this helps you understand why I'm crazy enough to not use balance charging on my 44 kilowatt hour pack in my electric car. I'm not the only one. There's a whole movement of people that are converting cars and they're using lithium batteries without a BMS, without a battery management system. They're not using a system that balance charges on every cycle. In fact, they're not using any computer or any device that is actually keeping track of each individual cell to be able to actively. If you guys didn't learn something, at the very least, you were entertained by my shenanigans. All right, see you guys later. Thank you for watching. If you guys have any questions, do post them in the comment section down below. We'll see you in the next video. All right, guys. The hell is this thing? This is a drone. Hopefully this thing is going to help me better my craft at storytelling and not really get in the way by crashing it and figuring out how to connect it and stuff. I've been wanting one of these things since it came out. I'm hoping this is going to be my motivation to keep going and to take my storytelling maybe to the next level. So let's set this thing up.